Over 90% of information technology projects run late or go over budget. If you're investing millions in new systems, you can't afford to be one of them. You start a new tech initiative with a clear vision, a solid financial plan, and eager stakeholders. Then the wheels fall off. Deadlines slip, costs multiply, and frustration peaks. The manufacturing sector faces unique pressures. You must maintain consistently high quality, navigate complex global supply chains, and meet strict time to market demands. When you introduce a new technology project into this high stakes environment, the margin for error shrinks to absolute zero. A single misstep can pause a production line or create massive financial strain for your entire company. Understanding the root causes of project failure gives you the power to change the outcome. Most delays and cost overruns don't happen because the technology is flawed. They happen because of human disconnects, poorly managed vendors, and overlooked vulnerabilities. Today, we will dive into the top 3 challenges derailing your tech initiatives and the exact strategies you need to fix them. The first major hurdle is the misalignment between your IT and OT teams. The modern manufacturing plant runs on 2 distinct tracks: information technology and operational technology. For decades, these 2 groups operated in total isolation. IT managed the data, the servers, and the enterprise software. OT managed the physical machinery and the factory floor. When you launch a new tech project, these 2 worlds must collide. Unfortunately, they rarely speak the same language. IT teams prioritize data security, rapid software updates, and network integrity. OT teams care about one thing above all else: uptime. They focus on keeping the machines running smoothly and safely. When these teams don't align their operational objectives, your project timeline will suffer. Consider a common scenario. A plant decides to implement a new predictive maintenance platform. The IT department drives the project, focusing entirely on cloud integration and data flow. They design the system perfectly from a software perspective. However, they don't consult the OT team about how the new sensors will physically integrate with legacy machinery. When deployment day arrives, the OT engineers halt the installation. They realize the new data collection method requires taking critical machines offline during peak production hours. A project that looked great on a spreadsheet suddenly stops for months while the teams renegotiate the schedule. Here is your actionable insight. Establish a unified communication framework before the project officially begins. Don't let one team build the strategy and hand it to the other for execution. Form a cross-functional steering committee that includes leadership from both IT and OT. Force these groups to define the core business outcome together. Create shared metrics for success so that neither team can claim victory unless both the data requirements and the uptime requirements are met. Before we move on to the second challenge, I want to offer a quick resource. If you're in the middle of an IT project running overtime or over budget, I'll drop a link below if you'd like to book a 30-minute project review with me. Now, let's talk about the second major challenge: vendor drift and scope creep. Manufacturing projects rarely happen in a vacuum. You rely on external contractors, third-party software vendors, and equipment suppliers. Adding these third parties to your production process increases the risk of miscommunication exponentially. Vendor drift occurs when your external partners slowly lose focus on the original project goals. They might swap out key personnel, delay hardware deliveries, or misinterpret the technical specifications. Meanwhile, scope creep happens internally. Stakeholders ask for minor tweaks or additional features that were never part of the original budget. These unauthorized changes combine with vendor drift to create a perfect storm of cost overruns. Take the case of a mid-sized plant attempting to automate a packaging line. The project begins with a strict scope and a rigid budget. 2 months in, the plant manager asks the vendor to add a new vision inspection system to the line. The vendor agrees, but doesn't clearly communicate the cost and time impact of this change. As the vendor struggles to integrate the unplanned system, their core robotics team is reassigned to another client. No one tracks the changes effectively. By the time the line finally goes live, the project is 4 months late and costs 50% more than the initial estimate. Here is how you fix this. Use milestone-based contracts. You can stop vendor drift and scope creep by tying financial incentives directly to project progress. Break your project down into specific, measurable phases. Require your vendors to deliver tangible results before you release the next round of funding. If internal stakeholders request a change in scope, force that request through a formal review process to evaluate the budget impact. The third and final challenge is one of the most dangerous: cybersecurity oversights. Historically, the factory floor was an isolated environment. The machines didn't connect to the internet, so cyber threats were an IT problem, not a manufacturing problem. Today, every new sensor and connected controller represents a potential entry point for hackers. Despite this reality, many project teams still treat cybersecurity as an afterthought. They focus entirely on throughput, efficiency, and hardware installation. They assume the IT department will simply bolt on the security features right before the system goes live. This oversight is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make. When you build a system without security in mind, you accumulate dangerous technical debt. Fixing these vulnerabilities after the fact requires tearing down the architecture and starting over. If a piece of ransomware locks up your newly upgraded production line, all the efficiency gains you planned for instantly disappear. Your actionable insight here is simple but critical. Integrate cybersecurity assessments from day one. Don't wait until the testing phase to ask about firewalls and encryption. Bring a cybersecurity specialist into the initial discovery phase. Conduct a thorough risk assessment on every new piece of hardware and software you plan to introduce to the plant. Manufacturing tech projects don't have to be a source of stress, delays, and financial strain. When you address the human elements of project management, you dramatically increase your chances of success. Align your IT and OT teams early, manage your vendors with milestone-based contracts, and prioritize cybersecurity from the very beginning. If you apply these actionable strategies to your planning process today, you will watch your manufacturing projects transform from costly liabilities into powerful drivers of growth. Are you the president, owner, or CEO of a manufacturing firm generating 10 to 100 million in annual revenue who's struggling with IT projects running overtime and over budget? Book a 30-minute project review with me. Together, we'll uncover the top 3 obstacles preventing you from making progress, and I'll share at least one practical, cost-effective way to get traction today. No need to start over.